Welcome back, Magisters and crafting of spell makers. Oblivion affords us many different ways that you can be sold on the world of Elder Scrolls. With its magic, its mysticism, its swords and shields, its armor, its chainmail. And it will also afford you a chance to admit to yourself and everyone you know that you have way, way too much time on your hands.
Oh, so this is how we're going to do destruction farming. We're just gonna self-immolate.
We're gonna self-immolate for hours and hours and hours on end. But thankfully, your crew at Rocket Rabbit Commentaries understands that nobody should be afforded as much time as I had in getting my destruction skill up to level 100.
Huh. Now, I understand that there was almost certainly some pretty significant jump cuts there, but you were able to get your first destruction level after like 3 casts, so...
So I cut out about between 97 and 98% of the time that it took for me to actually get my skill in destruction up to master level, but... That's our goal right now, Mr. Gurnite, is in order for us to meet our goals in the level 1 playthrough, we have to become a master of destruction. Not 98, not 99, it has to be 100.
Okay. But even here, it's only taking you about 10 to 20 casts in order to do this. I mean, would definitely be tedious, but much like Restoration, you know, you could just... You could just do this as you're walking around.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I did
absolutely.
not know that you could use self-immolation in order to level up destruction. Man.
Because that's how, as we were discussing previously, that's the main difference between getting skill in destruction and gaining skill in restoration. Is destruction, you have to have a target. The target can be yourself. You just have to survive casting the spell. And I did end up killing myself a couple times in this process. Thankfully, because you have a freaking restore magicka button as your backslash/select button on your Xbox 360 controller, and all you have to do is just wait an hour to get all your magicka and your health back. This becomes a relatively easy process. Relatively easy, because you still have to commit the time to doing it. It took me longer to get Master of Destruction than any other portion of the playthrough. I spent more than half the time just in this one room right here.
Man, if I had known that you could use self-assimilation, I may have actually attempted this method in order to use destruction magic during my low level run.
Right, so you can get your skill up, and having a high skill in destruction up to master rank affords you a couple of advantages. One is that it discounts the amount of magicka that it costs to cast destruction spells. As you improve your mastery along apprentice, journeyman, expert, up to master, it also affords you a wider selection of spells. The more powerful the spell to cast, the higher the prerequisite mastery. If you do not meet the prerequisite mastery, you're not allowed to cast it even if you have enough magicka to do it.
So, how many times have they gone? Do they go on around the Ariadne and the Ornarbo text lines?
Oh, I saw the same stupid crap over and over and over again, man. That's why I love having subtitles.
Hey, mud crabs in what is it? In Ultima 9 are like one of the most difficult enemies in the game. So there.
They are. Better watch out for those mud crabs, especially if you max out your difficulty and then you go to that one cave in the game where you can find a giant mud crab. Which I don't even think is actually more powerful than regular mud crab. It's just bigger and supposed to scare the poop out of you.
Anvil is not in that big. It's not in that much of an uproar. We were there a couple of weeks ago.
Right, but we didn't go into the chapel. Yeah, there's a crime scene at the Anvil Chapel. Detectives are standing around doing God knows what. The people are dead inside. There's blood on the ground. We're gonna see first and foremost the state of the Anvil Chapel, and despite all the havoc that we end up wreaking, you can still do the Way of the Nine quest line in the pilgrimage. Hence, we just got the reference on the new topic called the Prophet. You can only get the Way of the Nine quest line if you got the DLC for Oblivion that says you can, and completing the Way of the Nine quest line will afford you some unique armor if you go through the entire thing.
Can we deal with the faction known as the Ultimer?
No, you can't.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. I hear that Daedra worship has become increasingly prevalent in the Somerset Isles.
I also hear that running into this desk on the left side of the screen is very popular.
Well, I'm glad that you are gleaning my reasoning for showing the video that I have, because I tried to show as much varied material as possible, because as tedious and stupidly lengthy this process is,
Journeyman's 50, isn't it?
It is 50. See, we're getting there.
We are already halfway there.
Right.
Well,
after like 3 hours.
Because, now it's going to take slightly more casts in order to level up each time.
Precisely. Yes. The higher your level, the more casts of destruction that you have to do before you level up in additional time. I think towards the end of it, I had to cast self-immolation like between 25 and 30 times just to level up once.
Okay. My question then is, why didn't you actually increase its potency or at the spellcrafting altar?
Because the potency of your destruction spell does not necessarily increase the amount of experience you get every time you cast the destruction spell.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a Final Fantasy II. This action does this thing.
Precisely.
Issue. This is why we got rid of this fucking system in Final Fantasy, by the way.
It's, I tell you, this system is still in Skyrim.
Yeah, the system is still in Skyrim, and it's still definitely in what was it? What was the Skyrim in space game called again that came out last year?
The space game?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that just be Bethesda's latest project?
Yeah, I can't remember its name right now.
Neither can I. Bethesda, Oblivion, in space.
Jesus.
Which I can totally see, by the way.
I've got an acquaintance bordering on friend that is actually really, really into a lot of the Bethesda projects, and he was so hyped for that. And I think he actually did play it to credits, but he's also the only person that I know that actually did play it all the way to the credits, because much like No Man's Sky, it released very poorly.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, just you think that a game about space exploration, because the premise of space is that it draws
but that's
attention.
The terrible thing. There isn't space exploration in that game. Space is a hub menu.
Space is a HUD menu. Yeah, and that's just it. It's nice to be reminded that we are indeed small on this planet that we have. Tail wagging. However, exploring for like just one day.
Restoration of Apprentice.
Exploring for just one day how basically infinitely big the universe is, you get bored with it pretty quickly. Because once you accept it as a concept that the universe is so big you can't even fathom, you need not explore any further, because exploration does not decrease the size of the thing that you're trying to explore. It keeps going. Forever. And ever. Thankfully, what is not so infinite...
We're not going to see the faction conflict in Bruma, are we?
You mean the Fighters Guild?
I don't think it's the Fighters Guild that they're referring to there. There's two different political factions going around in Bruma. attempting to actually have political control over the city.
Well, see, I'm glad that you are taking interest in these text boxes that are coming up, because I had long since checked out by the time we got to this dramatically during the recording process. The Maria Elena, that is relevant if you go into the Dark Brotherhood, because you have to board the ship, immediately fall under attack. Actually, wait, no, that's not true. You have the option to sneak on board the Maria Elena by hiding inside a cargo crate, and you have to murder the captain. If you do it without getting caught, then you get a special bonus.
So everyone else gets to talk about rumors.
Yeah. A couple of these guys don't even really say anything when you try talking to them. We are now expert in
destruction.
And we are on the final leg of the grinding ladder, because now that we're expert in destruction, now it takes us the superlative and not extendable amount of time to grind up each successive level.
Right.
By this point, your grinding spell, which we affectionately dubbed Grind in this playthrough by Rocket Rabbit, showing you how to become a master of destruction while basically ignoring and neglecting everything else in your life at the same time. That spell that you created, however strong or however powerful, is probably going to be costing you so little, because you were a novice of destruction when you got it, that your magicka bar is going to regenerate faster than you can spend it, meaning that you're probably going to be what would be a good idea anyway, not given to matters of probability, use restoration magic in order to get your health bar back up so that you don't necessarily have to use the weight system. Like, for example, if you wanted to do this whole process without using as much game time as humanly possible, because as you can well imagine, waiting hour after hour after hour, the game clock never stops, and you're only accelerating by waiting over and over again. We'll go into exactly, by the end of this playthrough, how much time we spend in the world of Tamriel being this way, converting the stupid amount of time to stand at a controller. Yes, stand, because I play video games on my feet, believe it or not. Kill yourself in the process a couple times, reload the save file, which thankfully you get auto saves every time you use the wait feature, and see if it's worth it. I thought it was.
No, well, we've already done the Jaden Hall recommendation, so we're probably not going to go back there.
They're talking about our exploits and getting here in the first place, so that makes me smile. What I love about these characters and these totally randomized discussions they have is sometimes they'll just say, "How are you today?" "I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking." So, what's the longest time that you spent grinding?
Grinding like this, I've only done in Final Fantasy II. And even then, I didn't spend all that long doing it. The longest time I've ever spent grinding in general, I've actually gone against grinding in a lot of the more recent games I've played, but to be perfectly honest, there are still video games I play that objectively require grinding in order to actually beat. Like pretty much any of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories mods that I play. Fucking terrible people that make those. And a bunch of the Digimon games that I play usually require some amount of grinding. That said, I don't actually enjoy... Well, that's not true. There are specific games where I do actually enjoy the mechanical process of grinding. Specifically in Digimon and Forbidden Memories, I actually do... I do enjoy the grinding loop in those, usually. Just not enough to do it for, more than a couple of hours at a time.
I'm glad that games try to make the non-grinding portion of the game more fun than the grinding portion of the game, because that would be a real bitch if you have more fun grinding in a game than actually playing it. Like, to that point,
one of the issues that I had in Final Fantasy VIII, believe it or not, because for most of Disc 1, grinding is actually more fun than progressing through the main... You died again! But grinding is actually more fun in Galbadia than progressing through the main story. And... since my disc 2 was partially broken at a very important transitional period, that's how I you died yet again.
I forgot I was low on health. The game saved right before I hit wait. I make mistakes. It's part of the reason why it took me as long as it did.
Are you sure that increasing the potency of your fire spell your self-immolation spell wouldn't actually increase the amount of experience you get?
I promise you that it doesn't. What I'm also pretty sure right now is that these guys really don't care whether I live or die, because the guy just watched me flop over dead like he was watching somebody make breakfast. And you know what? I did make breakfast that day.
Master of Destruction.
My goose is now cooked. I'm a master. I cannot level up in destruction any further, and now any destruction type spell is able to be casted. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Okay.
So are we going to cast Armageddon Meteor or what?
Well, we are not quite ready to start making spells, Mr. Gurdat, because in Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls 4 4th installment, you cannot craft spells that have a magicka cost greater than the amount of magicka that you have.
Okay.
For example, our magicka is locked at 60 right now. We're looking for a spell that costs about 220. And in the next part, we're going to get closer to becoming the villain.